Hello, everybody, and indeed, Chicago Tony V here, and I've just been pondering kind of an interesting question throughout the day, something that I've been kicking around. I finally decided, you know what, this is getting interesting. Maybe I'll just record it. Maybe it'll be interesting to you. So the question I've been mulling over is, how do you know when you're getting a little too nuts with your preps? How do you know when you're overdoing it? That's what I want to think about today and talk about. First of all, let me get this out of the way. You know, prepping sometimes gets a bad name. All we're talking about is being a little extra prepared. You know, it seems like times out there are, it's getting a little dicey. Some things appear to be changing. So let's just take it easy, kind of be prepared for the worst just in case. Okay, no big deal. Having said that, one of the things I love about prepping in general is just how vast it is. Once you get to know other preppers and kind of start to look into what they're doing, learn what other people are doing, it's just amazing. You know, there are people who are big, precious metals guys, right? Some people are super into that. Some people are storing gasoline here, there, and everywhere. Some people are into building underground bunkers. Some people are huge into food prepping. You know, like that's kind of a big deal. I'm bound and determined to remain obese no matter what. Anyway, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, okay, no matter what you're into, I'm kind of into multiple things, right? A lot of prepper type people are into multiple things, but wherever you fall on the spectrum, chances are you have someone in your life who thinks you're a crazy nut job, right? Someone is looking at you, and in many cases, a family member has approached you and said, "Hey, geez, can you take it easy? Don't you think you're overdoing it a little bit?" I think this is very common. It's definitely happened to me. Sometimes it's very, very direct, and sometimes it's kind of underhanded little remarks to let you know, hey, just to make sure, I want you to know I think you're crazy. How dare you sock away all those cans of tuna or whatever it is you're doing, okay? So I think it's very common. Now, preppers, we do that to each other as well. You know, for example, full disclosure, I don't totally understand these people who are freaking out about nuclear these days. There are people who are working really hard to learn, what do I need to do in case of a nuclear annihilation? That's where I tap out. That's where I draw the line. This is just me personally. I'm not the least bit interested. I'm not the least bit interested in learning that stuff because, if nukes are flying, I'm not sure I want to live on this planet anymore. You know, that's enough for me. It's been a wild ride. So, but that's just me. So we do that to other preppers. I have friends who are trying to set up, second and third residences in other countries, right? Other people would look at that and say, well, that's overdoing it. That's crazy. How dare you, right? So there's all this variability. And really, I think it's fun and it's fascinating, but sometimes if you've been prepping long enough and if you have an iota of sort of ability to look yourself in the mirror, sometimes you have to ask yourself, am I going too far? You start to wonder about yourself, right? If you're feeling this way, I have this hunch. It's very common. Now, let me be clear. I don't consider myself a master prepper, not even close. I'm a beginner. I've been doing a lot of stuff over the past 2.5 years, but there's a ton of people out there on YouTube who are, if you're looking to learn something, there's lots of great guys on YouTube who have way more experience than I do. At any rate, I think it's very common at some point to look at yourself and say, geez, am I overdoing it? Or even look at yourself and say, am I underdoing it? That's what I've been thinking about today. And I want to share with you kind of what I've arrived at. I've thought this through, and here's how I think we should look at this. I think the key is you have to be true to yourself. That's the key. Let's get into what do I mean by this. First of all, This means only you, with your brain, your mind, your life experiences, only you can actually answer the question, have I gone too far? Have I gone not far enough? You're actually the only one who should be determining that. Now, that's not to say that it's not helpful maybe in some cases, maybe. You know, if you have friends and family members tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, Hank, what are you doing digging a bomb shelter in your backyard? You know, was that a little excessive? Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm literally saying whatever you think it is that you should be doing, you're right. You're right. Well, what I'm not necessarily saying that you have assessed the situation correctly. What I'm saying is you are right by going with your own instincts, your own determination. Let's think about this using not preparedness skills, not prepping, right, but something else, okay? Oddly enough, let's talk drugs, right? Drug use. I'll just share with you, just for myself, I determined when I was still a kid, years and years ago, that was a long time ago when I was a kid, I determined for myself, drugs are not for me. There's no way. And the reason is I believed, I already back then understood about myself that I would be powerless against that stuff. I couldn't say no. Okay. So my brain determined that for me, and thank Christ I've stuck to it and I've never done drugs and all that stuff. And let's hope it stays that way. That's just for me. That's for me, about me. All right. Take some other person. And I have friends. I've been alive long enough that I have friends that fall into this. I have friends who said they determined for themselves, drugs are for me. Whatever it is, whatever they were thinking, I'm adventurous enough. I'm curious enough. I'm just going to have to try it. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to do it. That's the right choice for me. Friends have thought. You know, in some cases, there have been some bad ramifications, right? Now, in other cases, lo and behold, they were able to somehow escape from that decision unscathed, and that's fine. More power to them. But here's my point, okay? Can you imagine if I had decided for myself years ago, I shouldn't do drugs, I can't do drugs? If I had decided that, yet, if I went ahead and offloaded that choice to someone else. I decided I shouldn't do drugs, but I let, my crazy neighbor, Hal, actually decide for me. And Hal decides, oh, yeah, you're going to try heroin. You're going to do it. It's a good idea. So when you think about the aftermath of that situation, I would have a lifelong regret, right? It would be lifelong regret. It would always bug me. Geez, I didn't go with what I had decided for myself. I went with my crazy neighbor, Hal. If you think about it, it's insane. Now let's take the other side of the coin. Let's say, again, you have a very adventurous person who decides, I'm too darn curious. It's going to eat me alive if I don't find out for myself. I got to try. I got to try drugs. I've got to do it. Looks fun to me. And what if a person like that used my brain to make the choice? They would regret that for the rest of their lives too, right? Now notice, I'm not saying who's right. In my mind, that kind of doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. What's relevant is the only thing that makes sense is we need to march forward based on what our own brains are telling us, right or wrong. So getting back to prepping for a second, I think we all should feel comfortable doing what we think is right. And I think where we're going to get into trouble is when we start letting, someone in the family, someone down the street, someone in our circle of friends decide for us, And that could be they tell you you're doing too much, or it could be they tell you you're doing too little. It has to be your own. It has to be your own choice. That's the only thing that makes sense. This is why I walk around. If you're a prepper and you're watching this, I know you can relate to this. I walk around worried about my friends and family like they haven't done enough, right? And I really do feel that way in many cases. But you know what? It's none of my business. Who am I to say? They have to do what their brain tells them to do is right, just like all of us. So who am I to say, I know what's best for you? No, all my friends and family that I'm kind of worried about, it's still their decision. So I don't spend a lot of time just kind of telling other people what to do. It's irrelevant. So what I'm saying is, long and the short of it is, stop worrying so much about, am I overdoing it? Am I underdoing it? Now, you should still think about that. But when it comes to, oh, my neighbor Kenny seems to think I'm overdoing it, grain of salt. I'm saying let's not worry about it. I'm saying Kenny's got his own problems. It's none of his business. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. You do you. Be true to yourself. It's your decision, like it or not. And it's your responsibility. It's your decision. Be true to yourself. I like you. Thank you for watching.